From the original World War II Willys to the modern four-door JK, the Jeep has gone through many transformations. Today, we'll create our own CJ8 Scrambler. Plus, see how Paris, California proved to be a back-breaking debut for We Rock's Tracy Jordan.
That and more right now on Xtreme 4x4.
We spend a lot of time making sure that what we do here at Xtreme makes sense to you guys at home. We read all the emails that you guys send in. We have surveys on our website that people fill out, and we read and find out what you guys are building. And then we also spend a lot of time surfing message boards to make sure that what we put together here on the show makes sense to you guys at home. Now, all the information that we find out helps us decide what we're going to build here at Xtreme 4x4. Now, what you guys tell us is somewhat contradictory. Half of you guys, you want to see more budget builds, like our BioZoot or our four-wheel steer bottom drawer buggy. Now, some of you other guys want to see more over-the-top builds, like our core truck and our S10. Now, believe it or not, all those projects have something in common. The BioZoot, it was great. For less than $6,000, we had a wild trail truck that you could wheel pretty much every weekend. Bottom drawer buggy, $10,000. Four-wheel steer, 46-inch tall tires and Rockwells, can climb any hill and hit any obstacle you pointed at. The core truck, well, obviously the only word for that is extreme. But all those projects put together required one thing, and that is a lot of tools to build. Now, having all those tools is great, but that's a lot of money out of your pocket. And that leads us to a question or complaint that we get asked more often than anything else. Why don't you build a project in a simple two-car garage? No fancy shop, no fancy tools. So what we did is we completely renovated the shop here at Xtreme. And underneath the mezzanine, we put together what we consider to be a pretty typical two-car garage. Just over 20 feet by 20 feet. And we simply took this whole place and filled it with a pretty sparse selection of common tools. It all started with a simple workbench, a couple of grinders, sawzall, cordless drill, and a vise. Throw in a set of torches, toolbox full of some hand tools, engine crane, jack and some stands, and a small 110-volt welder. And with these tools, we'll build a truly one-of-a-kind trail truck. One that looks good enough to be on the cover of a magazine, but can also lay down some serious smackdown on the trails. Plus, be full of some truly innovative one-of-a-kind parts. Probably the biggest trend you see on the trail these days are a lot of one-of-a-kind trail trucks. Wild buggies with crazy lines and out-of-the-box drivetrains. Now for this project, a two-buggy just simply would not do. We don't have a bender or a notcher, no plasma cutter. And if we bought a chassis, chances are the truck truly wouldn't be one-of-a-kind. We need something with a lot of aftermarket support, since our tooling is limited. We'll need to be able to buy a lot of parts, either new or used. And what we've chosen to build is a Jeep, but not just any Jeep, one that's pretty rare. We're going to put together a fully custom CJ8 Scrambler. Now, there weren't very many Scramblers made. Only about 28,000 of them rolled out of the factory between 1981 and 1986. Now, they've become really popular lately, partly because of their size, and also partly because they have a 103-inch wheelbase stock, which makes them great for wheeling. But we want ours to be truly one of a kind, so here's the plan. A normal Scrambler has the stretch on the back side of the body. From the firewall forward, it's like any other Jeep. They came from the factory with a small hard top that just covered the driver and passenger. Now you can get a full soft top to go all the way to the back, but we're going to install a CJ7 hard top that's a little bit shorter. And that's going to give us a very unique style on this Jeep. It'll have a little trunk in the back to put our gear, and it'll just look bitchin'. Little door there. Yeah. Now the first thing we're going to deal with today is all the drivetrain for our project. And that's because we're working in a pretty small space. We want to take care of all of this stuff when there's not a vehicle in here in the way. Now for a power plant for our Jeep, we went ahead and got something a little old school. This is a first generation Chevy small block. It's obviously used. It's had aluminum heads put on it, a stroker kit, and it's pushing out 383 cubic inches. Now the nice thing about these first generation small blocks is you can pick them up pretty cheap nowadays. The LS series, the all aluminum ones out of the Corvettes and the Camaros, are flooding the junkyards. So the older engines like this have dropped in price a lot. We picked up this whole package for less than $1,500. But because it's used, before we plan to put it in, we want to make sure it's good. A simple compression test will let us know if we need to plan a rebuild for this motor. And with each cylinder coming in between 185 and 200 pounds, this engine should be good to go. Now, since our Scrambler is kind of an old school type of truck, we decided to go with an old school type of induction. A Wyand Stealth aluminum intake manifold, and on top of it, a Holley 770 CFM Truck Avenger off-road carburetor. Now, you don't see a lot of carburetors out on the trail nowadays, and so this will add to our one-of-a-kind kind of feel for this truck. Now, Holley has some serious field testing into this carburetor, and they say it can handle some serious angles when it's out on the trail. Well, we're gonna find out.
Coming up, the guys provide a sneak peek at what our Scrambler will look like. But up next, see why rock crawling's elite are switching to the pro stock class when Xtreme 4x4 continues. Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. Our event of the week takes us to sunny Southern Cal for World Extreme Rock Crawling.
Long considered the premier class, the Dream It and Build It Unlimiteds have dominated pro rock crawling. Those days are now numbered.
I see the Supermod class going away.
Once overshadowed and overlooked, at the season opener, the Pro Mods drew a record 24 cars.
The Pro Modified class is doubled in size easily.
Despite restrictions,
37-inch tires, 2 seats, front engine, and you have to have a body, which really kind of gives the class some character.
it doesn't stop them from running the same courses as the Unlimiteds.
It's truly a driver's class.
The vehicles are very similar. There's limits to keep them similar, so really the best team wins here.
While every pro loves a challenge, it's not the only reason why this class has exploded.
It's a little bit more of a traditional vehicle, so it doesn't just sit in the garage. You can get it out and have fun with it year-round.
My sponsors love me in this class because of the signage we can put on the vehicle. It does resemble a Jeep, and they can sell parts for a Jeep.
A builder and multi-time champion, Shannon Campbell's name is synonymous with the Unlimiteds.
I like them moon buggies.
He also realizes the future is in the Pro Mods.
Everybody switched to that class, and I've been wanting to do it for a while, so I think I'm gonna take my car apart and see if I can't get it done before my next event.
While Shannon made plans, Tracy Jordan arrived at Paris, California, ready to rock.
We're really pumped.
Respected as the sport's first rock star superstar,
He's definitely one of the greats, and now he moves into the Pro Modified class. There's nothing you could say but great things about it.
I just wanted to be where the competition was. I like to win. I want that win to mean something. When I'm home looking at a trophy, I want it to have meant something, that I beat the best in that class.
his done it and won it reputation made expectations high.
Of course, there's pressure because we've already done everything in the sport, and then drop into a lower class. All eyes are on you, and you're kind of the target.
Tracy's ability to work as one with his supermod is the stuff of legend.
He's a hell of a driver. I've been watching him for a long time.
The new class would force him out of his comfort zone.
In a front engine car, I've always competed with rear steer, and you don't have that option out here. So kind of a learning experience. It's all driving though. We'll see how we do.
A slow start gave way to some vintage Tracy Jordan driving.
It's just picking a line, and that's what I love doing. That's how we've been so successful in this sport, was picking the right line. I don't care if I'm in a tricycle, I'm gonna pick the right line up through that stuff.
Finding himself in a three-way battle for second, the class newcomer watched defending series champ Brad Lovell build up a 35-point lead.
Honestly, I didn't know these guys in this class were that good. So I kind of let my guard down. We were in the first couple obstacles the first day, and we fell behind pretty quick and let our guard down, and now we're trying to play catch up.
Early on day 2, the 8-time champ took a big hit on A4.
Didn't have air bumps coming off that, and man, I wish I did. That's a hard hit. Knocked the wind right out of me. And I knocked the wind out where I can't even figure out how to get my neck brace off.
The hit did more than knock the wind out of him.
You can see this is what it's supposed to look like, and that's the strongest way you can mount a shock, and it still found a way to come out and bend 3/16 Pro Molly. I mean, and that's pretty much what my back just took, and it did it on the driver's lower as well. So now I understand why my back's in a little bit of pain.
Suffering a compressed vertebrae, Jordan pushed on.
It's kind of rough. Every rock I've hit since, it's a little stinger. Takes your concentration off of what you need to be doing, so having a tough day.
In a weekend full of adversity, Tracy Jordan still finished second overall.
Did I want second? No, we wanted to come in and win, and a lot of people are going to say, well, you lost in a pro mod, but there's a lot of great drivers here, and it's hard to win them all.
Time now for an Xtreme 4x4 tech tip.
Now here's a problem that anyone with a 4x4 can relate to. This is what your inner fender wells look like after a good day of wheeling, caked up with mud. When this stuff dries, it can be a real pain to get off. Now all you guys probably have a can of WD-40 laying around your shop. Go ahead and grab it and give your inner fender wells a good spray. And the WD-40 creates a film on the plastic. When the mud tries to stick, it can't. It just falls right back off onto the ground. We're back on Xtreme 4x4 and a part of the shop that we've put together to look like a small two-car garage. Well, we're building a project to show you guys that you don't need the big shop or all the fancy tools to put together a one-off vehicle to hit the trails with. And we're getting our drivetrain all put together right now, but we're going to do the transmission and transfer case with a little bit of a twist. Since we told you guys earlier how important your feedback is to us, right now we're going to put our money where our mouth is. There are 4 different combinations of transmission or transfer cases we could use in this project, and you guys are going to get to pick which one we put in. Now for the transmission, we've got a couple different choices. Weighing in at just over 175 pounds, the SM465 is a very lightweight but relatively strong 4-speed standard shift transmission. It has a 6.55 to 1 first gear ratio, and if you like standards, this is a great option. If an automatic is more your cup of tea, you really can't go wrong with a good old GM Turbo 400. 3 forward speeds, weighs about 190 pounds, and has a 2.48 to 1 first gear ratio. Now with the transfer case, you have 2 choices as well. The classic Dana 300 transfer case that you find between the frame rails of most Jeeps. Lots of aftermarket support like upgraded output shafts as well as a 4-to-1 gear set available to put inside. Now your other choice is the good old-fashioned new process 205 transfer case. Incredibly heavy, but also incredibly strong. Now we can upgrade the gear set in this, but only to a 3-to-1. So there are your options. You basically have 4 combinations to choose from because any transfer case will work with either transmission. So here's what you do. After the show, head over to the website, PowerBlockTV.com. There'll be a poll. Pick which one you want to do, and then what you choose, we'll put between the frame rails of our Jeep. The axles, that's our choice. To help set this Jeep apart from the crowd, we're going to build a front axle that has never even existed. Starting with a corporate full floating 14 bolt, we're going to cut it up and build a front steering 14 bolt axle. Now obviously if we're going to turn a 14 bolt into a steering axle, we're going to need some parts. Now recently an iconic name came back to the off-road aftermarket. Crane High Clearance has been known for building some seriously stout axle components for years, and after a brief hiatus, they're back in the game. We know that we're going to be running a passenger side drop transfer case, so the passenger side axle tube will need to be shortened. A simple chop saw does the work. The new Crane Chrome Moly Knuckle Kit includes heavy-duty inner Cs that we're going to tack onto our shortened housing. Once the short side inner C is in place, we'll assemble the outer knuckle and spindle, measure to check the width, and cut up the long tube. Now, obviously, we can't weld these inner C's onto the axle tube with a small 110 volt welder. It's just not strong enough. The plan here is to do all the mock-up on both of our axles and then carry them out to a welding shop and pay to have the finished welding done. Saves us from having to buy the big expensive machine. Now we have this one set up at exactly 64 inches wheel mount to wheel mount, so all we gotta do now is cut up a rear axle to match. With our drivetrain taken care of, we can finally start moving the Jeep part of this project into our little garage. Now, we'd honestly thought about buying an entire Jeep Scrambler used, but when we started to look at all the fabrication we'd have to do, we thought it'd be best just to take advantage of the companies that offer all the aftermarket parts, like this complete frame that we got from Throttle Down Customs. The frame consists of 2x4 3/16" frame rails, and even though it has the body mounts for the CJ8 Scrambler, Throttle Down Customs prepped this frame for TJ Unlimited suspension that we got from Rusty's Off-Road. Rusty's suspension uses a radius arm setup in the front with coil springs and shocks, and the high clearance arms are bent to clear obstacles when they're on the trail. The rear is a triangulated 4-link setup with a panhard bar, and having the frame prepped for this suspension gives a whole new meaning to the term bolt-on kit. Now the cool thing about a Jeep is you can buy pretty much everything you need for it in one place. And we grabbed more than just a cool suspension kit from Rusty's Off-Road. We grabbed as many parts for this Jeep as we could. Everything from bolt-on bumpers, body panels, even an old school jerry can. But the most important thing we got was this complete TJ axle swap kit. It has these pre-made brackets that you just have to weld onto your own axle housing to adapt to the TJ suspension. With our newly built 14-bolt axles underneath the frame, we'll set our pinion angles front and rear, and then tack the brackets onto the tube. So there you go, guys. It's not the size of your garage, it's how you use it. In this small 2-car space, we've put together a custom frame with custom suspension sitting on one-off custom axles with no heavy equipment, no magic tools, just our own basic hand tools and a little bit of ingenuity. And I know you guys don't want to end the day today with just a bare frame and some axles. Well, hold on to your seats. We got the whole package right now. A little bit CJ, a little bit TJ, and a whole lot of custom. I think we're gonna call this one a What the J.